All right, good afternoon, everybody. It is May 30th. Happy Memorial Day to everybody. Hopefully you are having a phenomenal, fantastic day. Before we start off the stream, I just wanted to say a big thank you to all of our military personnel currently serving our nation, also the people who have unfortunately gave the ultimate sacrifice and lost their lives protecting this country. I am extremely appreciative, and I'm sure I could speak for everybody in the chat when we say our dearest thank you. So happy Memorial Day, everybody. Hopefully you had a good time with your friends, family, loved ones, all that good stuff. But now, everybody, it's Monday night. Usually we do the Markets a Look Ahead stream on Sunday. Obviously we have a nice extended holiday weekend now, so we will be doing our Markets a Look Ahead stream tonight. We will be talking about notable earnings reports that'll be coming out this week. We will also be talking about Thursday, which is, I like to call, Cyber Day on Wall Street. It's really not called that, but two notable companies such as CrowdStrike, ticker symbol CRWD, and Okta, ticker symbol OKTA. Obviously, Okta is an extremely popular cybersecurity company specializing in IAM cybersecurity, which stands for Identity and Access Management. One of their biggest competitors is a company we talk about a lot on the stream, which is Ping Identity, based out of Denver, ticker symbol PING. So we'll talk about that. We will also talk about some housing data. And then, everybody, I think this is interesting. So I did some research. I went back into the history of the markets. And I know things have been crazy. At one point, the NASDAQ was down almost 30% or over 30%. The S&P 500 at one point was in bear market territory, down about 20%. And I think it's a lot, especially now, a lot of people go on CNBC and they're blaming Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And then you have the other side saying the stock market is down because of the Republicans and all this sort of nonsense. But if we actually take a step back and take an analytical approach and sort of analyze data going back to the 1900s, what's going on right now in the stock market is actually very normal. And if the market wasn't acting like this, I think there would be room for us to say that this is perhaps a statistical anomaly. So we'll talk about that a little bit on tonight's stream in relation to midterm election cycles and stock market performance. We'll do that tonight. But first, everybody, let's see who's in the chat. Well, before that, let's check futures. So S&P 500 E-mini futures up fractionally about 2 points, so I'm probably going to call that flat. Ticker symbol YM for the Dow Jones Industrial Average E-minis futures contract. We're actually down about 18 points. And then lastly, NQ, which would be the NASDAQ 100 futures. We're actually ripping about 40 points, but well off the highs there. Let's check out crude oil. Crude oil futures are up about $2, $117. And let's see who we have in the chat. Let's see who we have. We have Otto, we have Mr. Ming, Sally is here, Sammy is here, good to see you, the ABX girl, Samantha R, NNB045, Tamara is here, good to see you from Texas. Bitzita Lopez says, good evening, Tom. Good to see you, Bitzita. Charlie Richardson is here. I see Dante Rose, Vinny Castellano from Staten Island. Always a pleasure. Hopefully everybody had a good Memorial Day weekend. We are overlooking the Empire State Building, which is all beautifully lit up in red, white, and blue. Market was an anomaly. Hold on, let me see. I think I have something going on with my external mic. Let me know if you guys could hear me in the chat. Give me a thumbs up in the chat if you guys can hear me. I think I just disconnected the mic, unfortunately. Nick Rock says, hey, Top Gun is a must-see. I'm going to have to check that out. Loud and clear? Okay, good. Sorry. For some reason, my phone is acting a little bit strange here. Sounds better now, says Minnesota Walking. Got it. Ruby Falcone says you could hear me. Thank you so much, everybody. Walking Minnesota says the COVID market was an anomaly, but so many new investors don't quite understand, I think. Yeah, I think you make a good point. I think you make a very good point. But sort of what we're going to dive into tonight, and we're going to break down some of the data around that. Because in the first year of a president's term, that's actually where the vast majority of the market performance comes, and it's very, very normal for the second year of a new president's term to actually have negative, if not flat, stock market returns. And we're going to talk about why. Sally is here. Lena Sandoval, good to see you. Wendy England is here. Hope everybody is good. Minnesota Walking Tours. Gregory, welcome. Nigel is here. Good to see you. Nigel Dallas says hello all. Good to see you. Ruby Falcone says today was a beautiful day. I got a lot of stuff done over the weekend. Love that. Ruby Falcone, I think that 3-day weekends provide much more ample rest time, I think. Much more ample amounts of time for rest, I believe, personally. I feel refreshed. I feel ready for the week. But tonight we're going to try to make it to the Intrepid. But I guess, you know what, first we'll actually head towards, what's it called? We will head towards the Hudson Yards. I think we will head towards the Hudson Yards tonight. Hal T16, good to see you, Hal T16. Hopefully you're doing well. We are going to pass the NYPD mounted unit here, which is their horses, which we saw a little bit yesterday right outside of the New Yorker Hotel. Beautiful night in the city. I was taking a walk today around Central Park. Man, was the park absolutely slam-packed today. It was good to see a lot of people in the city. It was very, very good to see that. Nick Rock says tomorrow is going to be one of those, a hot one on the East Coast. Wow, feels around 100, says Nick. Jeez. Sebastian is here, says, hey Tom, good to see you, Sebastian. Always a pleasure. Mr. Ming says it's thunderstorming here right now. It's going to continue all night. Oof, not good. JF says, have you been to Little Island yet? If so, what are your thoughts? So I haven't actually been on Little Island. I've been around it on the outside, but I've actually never been there. I think you have to have a ticket, to be honest. I think you have to have a ticket in order to go there, but maybe one of these days we'll do that. I'm not sure what time it closes. Usually we stream pretty late. We're actually late tonight. I think it's almost already 10 o'clock at night. I apologize. I was actually going out to eat. I went to a very nice Korean restaurant called Hanbat. One of my favorite places in the city. We're passing Peloton's corporate offices here. Roy S. is here, says Manhattan Head should be lovely. So I missed that today. I completely forgot about it. I think you guys told me about it too, but I completely missed it, unfortunately. Sabrina Ferris says, Thomas, Manhattan Head, is this the place? It is not. So you could see it from 42nd Street, 34th, and I believe 23rd. But I think that's long overdue. I think that's long past. I think the sun was setting right at around 8:15, 8:30, I think. Hey, Sky is here, says greetings from the Pacific Northwest. Good to see you, my friend. RJ is here, good to see you. Hey, Cosmo Scary, hopefully you had a good Memorial Day weekend, my friend. Always a pleasure to have you here, Cosmo. Ramsey says, hey Tom, how are you doing? I'm doing fantastic. How are you? Design Ideas says, good evening, Tom. The boardrooms to board slides, I know, hilarious. Good to see Design Ideas, I like that one. So quick piece of economic data, which I think is interesting to bring up to the chat. 590,000 was the number of new U.S. homes sold in April. This is a 16.6% decline from March's totals. So we're starting to see home sales decline. We're not going to touch on it too much, but I just wanted to bring that number up. We've talked about it almost ad nauseum on the streams now. We talked about how interest rates are affecting affordability, but I think this is a good thing overall. I think you want to see some of the irrational exuberance, as you call it, come out of the housing market, especially if you are potentially a first-time home buyer, or maybe you want to buy a second or third investment property or something like that. I think this will allow prices to come down a little bit. And now some people may say, well, even if prices come down, if I'm paying, a 6% rate or higher, I think right now the average 30-year fixed rate mortgage is right around 5.25%. You may say it's still going to be expensive for me, but I think the better way to look at buying a house is not if you could afford the payment. It's the actual price itself, and you need to make sure you're well capitalized. So I think over the long term, for investors that do it the right way, I actually think this is setting us up for some very, very lucrative buying opportunities should home prices continue to fall. Now, I think inventory is starting to come on the market too, so that is good. Oh, Cosmo, you have to share those photos of Manhattan Hedge in the Discord, please. Cosmo, hopefully you took a video of that, man. I'd love to see it. I missed it. I completely forgot about it. Sadiq says, hey Tom, good to see you, my friend. Jay is here, welcome. But everybody, tomorrow is Tuesday already. So tomorrow, Salesforce, ticker symbol CRM, will report earnings. That is Mark Benioff's company. But I think the biggest thing to look for in Salesforce's earnings report is some clarity around the performance of how Slack is doing. So Salesforce acquired Slack, which was a formerly publicly traded company, under the ticker symbol WORK. And Slack is essentially a tool that competes with the likes of a Microsoft Teams, I guess you could say. So we'll get some clarity on how that acquisition is going. Also, we have HP reporting earnings tomorrow. So we'll cover those two on the stream. Obviously, we have to keep in mind that we will not be streaming, I believe, on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. So we'll have a lot of catching up to do as the weeks go on. Let me just adjust my mic. Hey, Daryl is here. Says happy Memorial Day, Tom from Chicago. Good to see you, Daryl. Gregory says, don't worry, there were 10,000 others taking pictures and videos. That is true. Cosmo says you tried streaming but had bad connection. Yeah, I could imagine, because they really, really crowd that area, don't they? I think there was a couple locations around the city where you could see it. I think, obviously, the biggest one is 34th Street, then 42nd, and then I think it's 23rd or 24th. But, for those of you who missed it, I think it's going to happen again in July. So we'll see. Sally is here. Says, beautiful view, Tom. Good to see you, Sally. Fabricio says, hugs from Brazil. Good to see you. Hopefully you're doing well. Good to see everybody from Brazil. Chris Beeman is here from Arizona. Happy Memorial Day, Chris. Hey, Action Kid is here. Says, Manhattan Hedge was so busy on 42nd Street. Yeah, I completely forgot about it, which is unfortunate. But I'm sure there's going to be tons of videos online about it. So looking forward to checking that out. Sabrina Fair is here. Says, hello, Tom. Good to see you, Sabrina. Let me pull over to the side here. I have a guy with the boombox following us. But now we're at the Hudson Yards. And I believe this is the Equinox Hotel right here. Sadiq says, hey Tom, have you been to London? What do you think of London versus New York? I have never been to London. I'd like to go, but I have not been yet. Maybe I'll get a chance to go this year, to be honest. Maybe I'll get a chance to go. At least we can only hope. But here we are at the Hudson Yards. It's the very famous Vessel building right here. But also tomorrow, everybody, a key piece of economic data is coming out. The Conference Board will release the Consumer Confidence Index for May. Now, many economists on Wall Street are estimating a 4.7% month-over-month decline to about 102. However, retail spending has remained quite strong even though consumer confidence continues to decline. So we're having a little bit of a divergence here between what consumers are actually feeling and their actions, so to speak. But as we've been talking about on the stream, covering almost ad nauseum again, Walmart, Target, the CEO of Home Depot, essentially what they're saying is oftentimes consumers are spending more, that is true, but they're seeing slight adjustments in their spending habits. So for example, the CEO of Walmart came out and said they've noticed a sizable shift from consumers buying name brand goods or name brand cereals and shifting that spend over to store brand, right? Or the Walmart brand cereal or the dairy products. And oftentimes, if you actually dig a step further, what you'll see is, yes, consumers are spending more, but it's not like they're getting more products and services. Oftentimes they're getting the exact same, if not even a little less. And obviously that has to do with the inflation problem, which, by the way, breaking news, President Joe Biden will be meeting with Fed Chair Jerome Powell, probably to talk about inflation. Not sure what they're going to talk about yet, but it's anybody's guess. But I think we could probably speculate. Hey, the Papa Smurf OG, good to see you. Says, hello, Tom. Happy Memorial Day, my friend. I am tired. I just got off work. Love the Hudson Yards. They did a great job on that building, and God bless America. Ditto to that, my friend. Good to see you. Hopefully you have off tomorrow. Papa Smurf is our great friend, also FDNY firefighter. So big respect to that. Good to see you, my friend. Bev says hello from North Carolina. Good to see you. Jay, always a pleasure. The British Grey is here from Tampa, Florida. Good to see you, British Grey. Always a pleasure. Hopefully you had a great Memorial Day. Solo 401 says, Tom, there's going to be a meteor shower tonight. I was reading into that, but we're probably not going to be able to see any of it in Manhattan due to all of the crazy light pollution. Sabrina Ferris says, tomorrow back to the grind. Indeed. Victor is here, says happy Memorial Day. Atomic Skittles says, are you walking the High Line tonight, Tom? You're so close to the entrance. Well, I think it may be closing. I'm not sure what time the High Line is closing, but we'll probably walk over there right now to take a look and see what time it closes. Might as well. Ali says, hey, Tom, any advice for someone who wants to move from Canada to the U.S.? If you're talking about advice in relation to visas, I really don't, and I apologize for that because the situation, especially if you want to try to get an H-1B visa or something like that, the process is just so laborious and horrible. And I think that the United States, us as a country, should be doing a much better job at welcoming the smartest and brightest minds from all over the world. Actually, Canada has been kicking our butt in relation to immigration policies. So a lot of smart individuals are actually choosing to immigrate to Canada as opposed to the United States because oftentimes it's just easier. But hopefully you'll find your path to the United States. We definitely want you to come here. But I'm dealing with that a little bit in my personal life too. And it's extremely, extremely difficult, especially if you're trying to get an H-1B visa, because I believe the H-1B visa process is literally a lottery. They just select random names out of a hat, assuming you have a company sponsoring you or something. So it's really, really crazy and backwards, the process here in the United States. And hopefully it will improve. I think it may improve, but hopefully you'll find your way. Don Smith, good to see you. Wendy England says, Tom, the IT job market in Vancouver is rocking. I could imagine. Chris Beeman says, tomorrow will be strange as I no longer have a job to go to. Jeez. Yeah, Chris, you were telling me about that. Shoot me an email. We were talking a little bit offline, so we'll get you hooked up. We'll get you going. Amanda is here, says, hey, Tom, good to see you. Amanda. Ali says, IT job market. Very lucrative. Mr. Ming says, hey, Tom, are we going to go to the Intrepid? We may go to the Intrepid. We may go to the Intrepid tonight. NMB 045 says Canadians with ambition have always had a tradition of moving to the United States. Think Kevin O'Leary, etc. Yeah, so you're exactly right, but I think it's very hard. I think a lot of people, they think it's easier to come to the United States legally. Let's talk just legally. It's hard. It's really, really hard, especially, even if you have gotten an internship here and your specific job will actually sponsor you for the H-1B visa. Even though your place of work actually will sponsor you for the visa, it's still a lottery process, right? So you have to get your name selected in the lottery, and sometimes that could take many, many years. So the process is extremely hard, but I wish you the best, man. I really, really hope you can come here. I really, really do. Amanda says, hey Tom, any tips on how to become a millionaire before the age of 18? I do not have any tips on that. Cosmos Scarius says, being a dual citizen of Canada and the US is the best of both worlds. Free healthcare and high wages in the United States. Interesting. Very interesting. Tin Man says, happy Memorial Day. Good to see you, Tin Man. Lupe is here. Welcome, everybody. The vessel looks fantastic tonight. Is it just me, or does the vessel look absolutely fantastic? And the building right behind it, this is the brand new, I do believe there's residences in this building as well, but there's also a very, very upscale hotel, the Equinox Hotel. I think some of the rooms could be upwards of $1,000 a night, which is kind of crazy, pretty insane. But everybody, if we turn our attention to Wednesday, obviously we're starting off the week on Tuesday. Markets were closed, fixed income markets were closed today as well, in addition to the equities market. Wednesday is the big day because that is the first of the month, and every first of the month we get the ISM manufacturing numbers. So the ISM will release its Manufacturers Purchasing Managers Index, or the PMIs, for May. Consensus, so the majority of, I guess you could call them economists on Wall Street, are expecting a 54.8 reading. If that happens, that's pretty much in line with April. And that's actually a pretty good reading. And the reason why the PMIs are so important is because, and every time we do a stream, so maybe Wednesday we'll be able to do a stream actually doing a deep dive into that report, because they actually go around and interview people that are feet on the street in specific industries and ask them what they're seeing in terms of forecasting new business, in terms of what they see in terms of supply chain bottlenecks. Is the supply chain improving? What is demand looking like? So a lot of traders, analysts, and pretty much anybody who's into finance really, really pays attention to the ISM manufacturing numbers. Obviously, with anything that is available for free online. So on Wednesday, we will be doing a stream to do a huge deep dive into the PMI numbers that are coming out for May. But I think for now, we'll wait until this car passes, and then we'll just do one lap around the vessel, because we haven't been here in a while. So this week is going to be jam-packed with earnings as we head into the tail end of earnings season. Also a lot of economic data. Obviously the first week of the month is always busy because we always hear from the ISM. We get the manufacturing numbers out. And this is the very, very tail end of earnings season. So the vast majority of companies have already reported. But I'm very interested and intrigued for Thursday because two companies that I follow really, really closely. I used to own a position in CrowdStrike, no longer, but CrowdStrike is one of the leading cybersecurity companies, right up there with Zscaler. But CrowdStrike and Okta, ticker symbol OKTA, will be reporting on Thursday. Now, Okta is a very good company. I actually use the product every single day, and they specialize in identity and access management, or IAM, cybersecurity software. But we actually usually talk about their competitor, Ping Identity, a little bit more than we do with Okta, but Okta is a fantastic cybersecurity company. You could think about single sign-on, all of those good things. If you guys want to learn a little bit more about that, if you look throughout our channel, we actually dedicated a couple streams specifically to cybersecurity, talking about many different segments of the cybersecurity industry, including IAM, Identity and Access Management. Wow, but this looks to be like an outdoor concert area. Let me know how it comes out on the stream, but I'm not sure the glare makes out. But check this out. There's all these lawn chairs here. And it looks like people are watching some movie. This is very cool.
Nothing was nothing until it was something.
Zivitatis' Okta made a boo-boo a few months ago, and their image got tarnished. At least with the technical folks, sales, business as usual. Oh, for sure, yeah. And I think there was another major hacker breach a few years ago. Maybe I think it was with Symantec, I think? I forget, I have to go back. Lupus is there watching your stream. Maybe. Calvin Atwood, this is totally ubiquitous and generic. Good to see you. Calvin says this could be Dallas or Cleveland. All right.
At PNC Arena so far in this series. So, look, the Hurricanes are going to hang on to anything they possibly can now.
Calvin Altwood says I live in New York City. Very cool. I think they're watching a hockey game. Is there a big hockey game on tonight? Jose says hello, Tom from Brazil. Good to see you. Renten says Tom, they are playing the Rangers game tonight. I guess that makes sense.
Chekhov in there, and Stroll has a brilliant chance. I'm not sure how that didn't go in. There's no editing required on this one. Here's a 2-on-1 for Carolina.
Hey, Chad is here. This is Rangers game. So if you go to the top of the vessel, you could actually see this platform on this building. We got the spam bots coming out of the woodwork. Calvin Altwood says, hey Tom, at least show us part of the city that is distinctly New York and not corporate garbage. Hope you're having a good Memorial Day weekend. Sean is here, welcome. Wendy England says the bots, I know, they're coming in hot. Gene is here, says, hey Tom, hope you're having a great weekend. I am, I'm having a very good weekend. Josie is here, says, hey, welcome. Let me see if I could zoom in on the screen here. I mean, the quality of this screen is really good.
So the Rangers do all these grand, big things well, but doing a lot of little things. Well, the little things never show up on the scoreboard, but the Rangers brought in Marcus Goodrow. They brought him in for a reason, for games like tonight, because of his DNA and what he can bring to the team. He does everything well. He's great on face-off.
So here is the original Hudson Yards, which is the Long Island Railroad station. So the trains come in through Penn Station, but this is the West Side Yard. So this is where many of the Long Island Railroad trains get maintenance and things like that. And if you look across the river here, you can actually see the UBS building, which is in New Jersey. So you have a beautiful view in New Jersey here from the Hudson Yards. The one that got away is your tax money for a big screen, yeah. Well, I think this is actually probably privatized. James says, I've got news for Calvin. 100% of Manhattan is corporate. A lot of it, yeah, for sure. Good to see you, James. Hope you're well. Don Smith says, Trump owned this property in the 1980s. Did he really? I didn't know that. Alex Gray says, what's your top pizza places? Number one, go-to place. Second best, 3 for occasions. Well, number 1 is definitely DeFara Pizza in Brooklyn, New York. That place is phenomenal. Number 2 is probably Prince Street Pizza, and then number 3 is probably going to have to be Made in New York Pizza, I'd say. That one's pretty good on the Upper West Side. Hey, Papa Smurf says, hey Tom, if you're ever hungry, come on down to my family's restaurant, Junior's Restaurant and Bakery. I am sure you will enjoy it. Hey, dude, send me an email and let me know where exactly it is, and I'll be there. Zay Batata says, next week, Tom, live from East Harlem. Jeez. Bottomless Coffee is here. Says John's a Bleecker. Cosmo Scary says, mine is Monaro's Pizza on Mulberry Street. Very nice. Tin Man says Joe's. I'm not a big fan of Joe's. Joe's is all right, but it's definitely not the best. DeFara's Pizza is I think it may be closing down, is it? Or I think maybe the owner unfortunately passed away. But everybody, so that is for Thursday. Let's actually check out the front of this building. I don't think we've ever walked past the entrance before. Looks beautiful though. Wow, the lobby looks amazing. Hey, Kenneth Smith says, what's up from Florida? Nice video. What's up, Kenneth? Good to see you. Hopefully you're doing well. Alex says, Tom, why will you not be streaming most of the week? So I have to go to Austin, Texas, actually. So I will be in Austin, Texas, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday on business. But then I will be back in the city. So we will not be streaming. We will not be having any streams. But we will soon. What I think I'm going to do is I shot some standalone videos. So I will upload those while I'm away. But we will be away in San Antonio, Texas. Never been before, so pretty exciting. Never been to San Antonio, so definitely looking forward to it. But what about you guys? Have you ever been to San Antonio? Gregory says, watch out for scorpions. Don Smith says, Tom buying VMware. Yeah, so we do have some M&A activity on Wall Street picking up. So Broadcom, ticker symbol. Oh, hold on, let me adjust the camera. I think it's out of whack. Yeah, but they made a bid for VMware. Gene says, hey Tom, is New York City fully open? It is pretty much fully open, I'd say. I'd say pretty much fully open. But everybody, to cap off the week, we ran through Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but to cap off the week on Friday, we will have the Services Purchasing Managers Index for May. Many economists on Wall Street are expecting a 56 reading. So obviously the first week of every month we hear from the ISM. They will release their Manufacturing Purchasers Managing Index, or the PMIs, on Wednesday. But then we will be hearing from them once again to end the week on Friday for the Services Purchasing Managers Index. And I think we may get a surprise beat on those numbers. And once again, on Wednesday, we will be doing a very, very deep dive, because I think these are probably the two biggest pieces of economic data that all traders, portfolio managers should look out for, because there's a direct correlation between when the economy grows and the returns for the S&P 500 or the broader market overall. So the theory is, as the economy grows and as the manufacturing sector grows or expands, so does the market. But if you have contraction in those specific verticals or sectors, you also have declining equity prices. Hey, Buy the Book is here. Says, hey Tom, watching with the family tonight. Hope you are well. Buy the Book. Happy Memorial Day weekend. Hopefully you had a fantastic one. Bob says, my sister and brother-in-law were stationed in San Antonio during the Gulf War and didn't like the city. Well, I'm sure it's probably changed since then, right? Parking full-time, says Texas Hill Country is nice, but it is hot this time of year. Yeah, so parking full-time, you're actually 100% right. I was looking at the weather, and it's supposed to be over 100 degrees when I'm there. So I'm actually going to land very late. So I'm going to land very late at night on Thursday, I think I may get there at like 11:30 at night, and it's supposed to be 100 degrees on Friday, so kind of crazy. But I'll give you guys one last look at the vessel, and then we will venture back into Midtown. Anthony Tripp is here. Good to see you, Anthony Tripp. Aaron is here. Says, hey Tom, good to see you, Aaron. Johnny TV says, good evening, brother. Good to see you, Johnny. Always a pleasure. Nick Rocks says, go to Buckeyes. If you see one, I will. I'll check it out. NMB045 says, yeah, you pretty much leave New York City when I arrive. Oh, speaking of that, NMB045, I sent you an email. I apologize. For some reason, your email got lost within my email box, but I replied to your email. So I'm not sure if you got it. Let me know if you got it. But everybody, now that we sort of ran through the markets to look ahead, I did want to bring something up on the stream. And I think it's important to do some very deep historical analysis when talking about stock market performance and stock market returns. Because when we focus on the data, it sort of removes our political biases, and not only political biases, but maybe our own economic biases as well. So when we focus on the data, perhaps we can increase our overall performance. So what if I told you that what is happening right now in the markets is actually normal? You turn on the TV, you understand that at one point the NASDAQ was down about 30% or over 30% at one point. At one time, the S&P 500 briefly fell into stock market bear market territory for about 1 hour, then has since rallied. So volatility is back on Wall Street, but what if I told you that this is actually quite normal for the environment we're in? So what do I mean by that? Well, usually the second year of any presidential term tends to have extremely poor to flat stock market returns. And I think this is for a couple reasons, right? Generally, markets do not like uncertainty. Uncertainty really puts a roil in the market, which is not good. Markets like clarity. So if we look back at history, ever since 1900s, or 1910 to be more specific, during the first and second year of a new president's term, the first year tends to be extremely good, where the stock market is off to the races. We've seen this during President Trump's presidency. We've seen this during President Joe Biden's presidency, where once he was elected, the stock market went on a tear. I think the day after President Joe Biden was elected, I think the market closed up over 2%. But as we head into the midterm year, which is the second year, that's when we see increased volatility. And there's a lot of theory. We can't say with conclusivity why this is, but many economists and many major money managers and managing directors on Wall Street think it has to do with corporate profits and uncertainty around new laws, new rules and regulations that could potentially be put in place should the midterm elections roll out a certain way. Another reason why. Here's the second reason why. Usually during the first term, usually during the second year of a president's term, that's when they could sort of really fix some of the problems and force the Federal Reserve to really do its job. So what do I mean by that? Well, if we understand that right now inflation is ramping, right? Inflation is at all-time highs since the 1980s. The Federal Reserve has to respond to that. So the Federal Reserve has came out, said they are going to aggressively raise interest rates. We just got a 50 basis point rate hike when usually rate hikes are in increments of 25 basis points. However, Fed President Bostic did come out and say that it is possible that the September rate hike could be put on hold if we get conclusive data from the market saying that inflation is indeed cooling. So as we know, what's the number one thing that influences stock prices, especially since the lows of 2008? It is the Federal Reserve. So as the Federal Reserve is doing its job, finally, the stock market is taking a little bit of a tumble. But if we look back at other presidents, usually in the second term, or excuse me, not the second term, the second year of when they're elected, stock market usually tends to slide. And we saw the same thing with President Trump. So here's some statistics here. And again, try to keep your political biases aside. I don't care if you guys are Republican or Democrat. We're all hanging out here. But I'm just trying to give some clarity in this crazy market environment. So during President Trump's first year, the stock market soared. But if you remember what happened in 2018, at one point the market declined 18.8%. And I remember this vividly because the day the market bottomed in 2018, I believe was on Christmas Eve. Does anybody else remember that? I mean, it was an absolute fear show in 2018 on Christmas Eve, and I believe the market put in a dead bottom on Christmas Eve in 2018. Interestingly enough, was the midterm election cycle as well. So even though things are crazy, even though volatility is picking up, even though equity prices are on the decline, if we do look back through history, what history is telling us is that this is actually pretty normal. So when you turn on CNBC, when you turn on Bloomberg, and everybody's pointing the finger and saying, hey, it's Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, they're the ones that are ruining your 401k, or they say, hey, it's Ted Cruz and all the Republicans, they're ruining your 401k right now. If you take a step back and you say, let me not listen to the mainstream media, let's actually analyze data and think like a data scientist here. Remove, oh my God, I thought that was somebody else. Remove our political biases, then we could make sense of this data, and if we actually look at it, actually pretty normal. So here's the good news. Here's the good news, everybody. The good news is we could potentially be setting ourselves up for one of the strongest stock market rallies in history. Now, I'm not saying this is 100% going to happen, but we're going to explore even more historical data tonight on the stream, showcasing as to why that is a real possibility. So we'll do that in just a second. Hey, Philadelphia Walks PTSD, what's up? Long time no see. Happy Memorial Day. Always good to see you. Welcome, Philadelphia Walks. Hey, Robert is here. Welcome, Robert. XOXX Bob. Robert says, hey, Tom, why doesn't the U.S. government take over the Federal Reserve? Well, the Federal Reserve is a private entity, and it's supposed to act as that, but I think a lot of people in the chat would argue otherwise. You know, speaking of that, President Joe Biden is going to meet with Fed Chairman Jerome Powell. Now, we don't know exactly what they're going to talk about, but they're probably going to focus on inflation. And I think, well, let's just say this. It's not looking good for the midterm cycles now that inflation is running high. But from an investor's standpoint, this could actually be setting us up for a very, very unique scenario in the stock market where it will benefit investors the most. And so here's what I mean by that. So the best political alignment, if we go back to, I think about 1910, I'll give you guys a beautiful view of the Empire State Building. So if we go back to 1910, statistics will tell us that the best political alignment for stocks could happen this year in November. And I'll tell you why. Since 1910, a Democratic president, combined with Republican control of both houses in Congress, has produced 8% annualized stock market returns. Out of all the data, out of all the possible scenarios, the best scenario for the market during a midterm election year is a Democratic president, which we have, a Democrat. We have President Joe Biden, so we check a box there. Number two, which is actually very possible, if we know that inflation is ramping, maybe the Republicans could take majority control in both houses of Congress. Put your political biases aside. It doesn't matter if you're watching this as a Democrat. It doesn't matter if you're watching this as a Republican. We are trying to analyze this data as investors. And if that's the case, I would go long the market just based on that fact alone, because the data is pretty conclusive. So now let's explore briefly why that might be. Why do you think the market in general wants a Democrat as president? And we could actually explore additional data as the stream goes on, because historically the stock market returns are better under Democrat presidents. And again, let's put your political beliefs aside. Doesn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican. We're looking at this as a financial analyst. Why do you think that the market wants division in our political ecosystem? Why do you think that they want a president to have different viewpoints than the houses of Congress? Why do we think that? Any ideas? Now, I don't know the answer, but I can give you my opinion. But I want to hear from you guys. Hey, Bagels and Walks is here. What's up? Good to see you, Bagels and Walks. Always good to see you. Pineapple Water says because it will be stable and nothing changes. Interesting. That's a good one. Maybe it's just because they're from Texas. Pineapple Water, I think you hit the nail on the head there. Texman81 says, Tom, it is because nothing gets done to upset the apple cart. I think you're right. I mean, that's my view, right? So my view is that if we think about, in general, as corporate profits and corporate earnings grow, so long will the stock market appreciate on a general sense, right? I know there's many other factors going on, but as corporate earnings grow, and as earnings of major companies grow, as America's GDP grows, so does the returns in the US equity market. So if you are having a divided government, usually nothing gets done. So nothing changes. And what did we just recently talk about earlier on the stream? Markets do not like uncertainty. Markets like clarity and certainty. So if the markets are certain that there will be no more rules, no new regulations, no increase in corporate taxes, these are just some examples. If the market knows that, well, then it's all systems go. And portfolio managers, maybe you are a proprietary trader at an investment bank. Maybe you are a hedge fund manager. Maybe you manage a sovereign wealth fund. I don't know. Pension fund manager. Who knows? But what decision are you going to make based on that political outcome? I'd go long the market. Why would you short in that scenario? Right? That means businesses will relatively be left alone. Consumers will be I'm not at ease because there's no new laws that are going to be passed, right? So usually when there's new laws and new regulations passed, you either have the Republicans throwing a fit, making a big ruckus, or you have the Democrats throwing a big fit, making a big ruckus. That almost guarantees everything is calm and the economy can carry on and do what it does best, which is growth. Northern Lights is here. This has been there once, not going back. If I could help it, nice place to visit though. Good to see you. Bob says GOP control Congress with McConnell. Will just block any of Biden's agenda. Yeah, so speaking, and again, I think we're doing a good job here, just speaking from, we're doing a good job, and the chat always does a good job, but, leaving our political biases aside, I don't care if you're a Biden supporter, I don't care if you're a Trump supporter, or you're a Republican, or you're a Democrat. Everybody's welcome here, but I think the best investors are the ones that just look at the data. And I think if this happens, we could be setting ourselves up to generate some serious alpha over the next 2 years. Yeah, Lee says the market loves gridlocks. You're right. But Lee, good to see you, my friend. James says, hey Tom, we are in full-scale recession. Well, I think we'll probably find out sooner rather than later, right? Everybody, check this out. So this is outside of the brand new Moynihan train hall. This is one of my favorite buildings in the city just because it's so iconic and it's so classic with these columns here. It's beautiful. JF says, I am an increase my bank account supporter. Hey, I could get behind that. I agree with that. Don Smith says, Tom, the Keystone Pipeline would bring gas prices down. Walking Minnesota says, who is going to excuse Nancy's trades if her husband goes to jail? Yeah, well, I mean, we've covered that on the stream ad nauseum. So I actually believe members of Congress should not be allowed to trade individual stocks. And if we actually look at the data, so there's this Twitter account that's a really, really good follow, Unusual Whales. So if anybody is on Twitter, I would definitely follow Unusual Whales. If you want to connect with me on there as well, might as well. Walks in Wall Street, you could follow on Twitter. I publish a lot of my equity research there. But Unusual Whales actually did a whole analysis in relation to members of Congress trading individual stocks. And it is a huge problem. And it's not just the Democrats and Nancy Pelosi. It's not. It's across the board. The Republicans do it too, and in much greater amounts, if you will. And I think it's unethical across the board. Doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat. If you are influencing rules, regulations, and policies within our economy, you should not be able to trade off of that information, because you know that information sooner than I know it, right? If I knew that information to start off with before everybody else, I would trade off of it and make money. And that's why there's rules in place. If you work at an investment bank, you have restrictions on trading and things like that. So I also think that we should have rules, regulations in place to say, if you are in Congress or a member of Congress, actively participating in making new rules, regulations, or formulating budgets for our country, you should not have the right to trade individual stocks. I do think you should have the right to participate in the stock market by owning index funds or owning the broader index. But at the end of the day, you signed up to be a public servant. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican. You should be focused on serving the public and not, trading derivatives off of insider information. And I think that goes for the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. And I mean, this stuff is really, really egregious. I mean, we can go down a rabbit hole altogether. I think one of the worst things that happened was, so the Biden administration, which I actually was very vocal about, in agreement with, increasing cybersecurity spending and finally getting serious about cybersecurity being a national security threat. I thought that was a fantastic job by the Biden administration to do that and increase government spending on cybersecurity products. But then you had members of Congress on both the right and the left buying call options, which is a derivative product, very high leveraged derivative product, if you will, on the full suite of cybersecurity stocks. So when the news broke that the government was going to be increasing government spending on cybersecurity products and cybersecurity defense, these stocks obviously popped, 10, 20% in a day. And lo and behold, very strange that, there were some Republicans and Democrats that were buying call options on CrowdStrike or Zscaler or Fortinet or Symantec. You get the picture. I think that sort of stuff, to me, it's unethical. I don't know. I don't want to impose my ethical beliefs on anybody else, but to me, I think that's a little bit of an ethics issue, potentially. Hey, Tin Man, good to see you. Hey, David C. Randall, good to see you, my friend. Says people in the workplace also get inside information, companies being sold, etc. So you're 100% right, and you're not allowed to trade off of that information. I actually had, somebody that I know at a company, well, I guess I won't even say that. Twilio, which is a tech company, had a huge insider trading scandal go on with some of their software engineers. So Randall, you make a great point. It's not only people in Congress, it's anybody. If you have insider information, you should use your ethics and not trade off of that, because markets are supposed to be free and fair. And it's hard to be free and fair when you know insider information. That's sort of like if you're on the board of directors at a publicly traded company and you know you're going to report a lights out quarter, and then you buy a bunch of stock before you deliver those earnings to shareholders, that's also an ethics issue as well. And that's why there's clear rules and regulations in place for that. Hey, Mystery Girl is here. This is Tom. What do you use when you walk to hold your phone and keep it steady? So we use a gimbal to keep it steady. It's called a gimbal. I think I bought it off of Amazon for about $100, I think. I think it was $100. Hey, Ella's here. So Tom, what do you recommend to protect my Android? Well, I think if you want to lock down a mobile device, you could use any sort of MDM or mobile device manager. So the two companies that I actually work with to sell those types of MDM, essentially they're called endpoint security solutions. You could use like a CodeProof, which is a good company. They're a private company, by the way. And anything I say right now, I'm going to have some sort of a bias because I do sell these products. CodeProof Scale Fusion is good as well. They're a good MDM. I actually use those two companies to secure my clinical trial customers. So I actually have a lot of customers in the medical field that run extensive clinical trials. And if you have an end user that has a device that are, logging diaries to participate in a clinical trial, you need to make sure that is within HIPAA compliance. And those particular software applications will make sure that we maintain our HIPAA compliance laws. So CodeProof is a good one. Scale Fusion is also very good. I would recommend those two. Hey, Melissa 2087, what's up? Says, hey Tom, are there any fireworks going off in New York City? There's quite a few around New Jersey. I think I asked my mom that today, if there's going to be any fireworks. I don't think so. There's definitely going to be fireworks on the 4th of July, but I may not be here for the 4th of July. I may be in Miami. I got to check it out. Yo, everybody, it's Noah Joseph. Dude, what's up? Long time no see. Hopefully you made it to New York safe and sound, my friend. Hopefully you are here in New York rocking with us now. I believe you're moving from California. So it's good to see you, Noah. What's up? Happy Memorial Day to you, my friend. Good to talk to you, my friend. Good to talk to you. Shannon is here. Says happy Memorial Day, Tom. Good to see you, Shannon. Vinny Castellano and Maria Castellano are here. Good to see you. Good to see you. Red Baron is here. Welcome. Hey, Faith, my best friend. Good to see you. Faith, hope you had a good Memorial Day weekend. Western Mass Dave is here. Says hello, Tom and friends. Andre Brown says hello, Tom. Another long time no see. Andre, hope you're doing good. Mystery Girl says South Street Seaport usually has the fireworks. That is true. We are quite the ways away from South Street Seaport, but maybe we'll have to do that tomorrow night. Yeah, so David makes another good point. So David Randall says, hey Tom, the funny thing is when you get your securities license, the test is very heavy on ethics. Yeah, so you're right, and I think as it should be, right? I think as it should be, because especially if you don't have fiduciary responsibility to your clients, you could be recommending different securities just because maybe you own a position in them. So I think ethics is very important, especially in sales. And I think, if you've ever watched the movie The Wolf of Wall Street, that is a clear example of very, very poor ethics and not acting in the best interest of your client. So I'm actually glad that it's very heavy on ethics. Melissa says, what street are you on? Well, we are right outside of Penn Station. And this is going to look completely brand new over the next couple of years, which is actually very good because this area has been in structural decline since about 2016. But I am very optimistic on its return. As you can see, there's so much scaffolding, so much construction. It's going to be all brand new. A lot of office buildings, I think some residential as well. So let's do something fun now, everybody. Might as well do something fun. It doesn't have to be all serious and laborious all the time, right? We could have fun. So let's do that right now. So here's something interesting that I found as I was doing some research. So if we look back throughout history, the top 3 stock market performers from inauguration until March 31st. So we're talking about the top 3 presidents. So let's say from the day you get elected through March 31st. Here are the presidents that have performed the best. But before I give that away, do we have any guesses as to who that could possibly be? If you had to guess without Googling, well, if you want to Google, go ahead, might as well. Any guesses? The top 3 presidents that have had the strongest stock market returns from inauguration up until March 31st. Who do you think would be in the top 3? Joseph says Reagan, okay. Bob says was Obama one, okay. Carr says Biden has to be number 1, maybe. So I'm seeing a lot of Reagans. Clinton, T. Campbell Clinton. Solo 401 says Clinton, Bush, and Trump. That's a good guess. Close, but no cigar. Jose says Franklin Roosevelt, FDR. Biden, Obama. I'm seeing a lot of Obamas. So at least we got one. Okay, so here's the top 3. The suspense is killing us and me. All right, I'll stop talking. I'll just give you the answer. Okay, so the top 3 stock market performers from inauguration until March 31st. Number 1 was Roosevelt with an 89.2% gain. So President Roosevelt. Number 2 was President Reagan with 48.2% return. And number 3 was none other than President Barack Obama. So number 3, President Barack Obama with 31.1%. So a lot of good guesses. I think a lot of you guys got them. But so obviously Roosevelt, Reagan, and President Obama. So if we want to understand or we want to explore how President Donald Trump and President Joe Biden stack up, President Trump scored 22.2%, and Joe Biden didn't score too bad either, about 12.1%. About 12.1%. But historically, if we want to talk about just Democrats or Republicans, the market actually tends to prefer Democratic candidates over Republican candidates in terms of performance. And this actually surprised me. Many of you probably knew this already, but it surprised me because usually you think about the Republican Party, the party of business. You guys know I tend to lean a little bit more conservative as well. But here's the statistics. Here's what the data shows. So the market prefers Democrats. So from 1901 until February, the Dow Jones Industrial Average performed a 3.8% gain under Democrats in relation to only a 1.4% gain under Republicans. Pretty interesting. You know, if I didn't know that beforehand and somebody asked me a trivia question, I would probably say, I would have probably guessed Republicans the market performs better under. But then again, after thinking about it a little more, usually Democrats tend to provide a little bit more government stimulus, which can provide a little bit more juice to the market maybe. But interesting nonetheless. Interesting nonetheless, everybody. Yeah, James says Democrats usually tend to spend more money. Wow, check this out. So if you look all the way down here, we could actually see a pretty clear view of the One World Trade Center or Freedom Tower. I think it is very fitting to take a look at Freedom Tower today on Memorial Day. So there is One World Trade Center, and then I'll give you guys a look at the Empire State Building, all lit up in red, white, and blue as well for Memorial Day. Hey, Sunshine After Rain is here. It says, hey Tom and everybody, good to see you. Hope you're well. Yeah, Solo 401, I forgot I gave you a Nightbot command. But definitely the two buildings that steal the show tonight in New York are definitely One World Trade Center and probably number 2, Empire State Building. The Freedom Tower, or One World Trade, is 1776 feet tall. Very nice, very fitting on a day like today for sure. Solo 401 is the most beautiful city in the world. I agree with that. You know, we'll first walk up to 34th Street, Herald Square. Maybe we'll head to the Intrepid. Let me check the battery. Red Baron says no matter who is president, you still have to do it for yourself. Oh, 100%. Yeah, I think in terms of your personal finances, it is irrelevant who's president. It's irrelevant. You know, I always say if you're waiting around for a politician to make a material change in your life, you're going to be waiting forever. You got to take initiative and do it yourself. No Republican or Democrat is going to come to the rescue. And that's why I always laugh when people say, oh, I'm not winning in life because of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. I'm not winning in life because of Donald Trump. These people have no material impact on your life. They don't even know you exist. Okay, Donald Trump isn't going to come to the rescue. Joe Biden isn't going to come to the rescue. You need to come to your own rescue and get to work. And luckily enough, we live in a country where we could do that freely. So bull run on that. You know, in your own personal life, it is a perpetual, never-ending bull market, if you want it to be. Hey, 48. Good to see you. Happy Monday night. I was about to say happy Sunday night, but good to see you, 48. Our good friend from New Zealand. Always a pleasure. Always good to see you, my friend. We're walking around on a beautiful Memorial Day in Manhattan. C-Piece is right on time. Good to see you. Sunshine after rain. Hopefully you had a fantastic Memorial Day weekend. Very restful. Uh, 004 says, wow, you sound like you hate socialism. I'm not a big fan of socialism. Billy, good to see you, my friend. Mike S. Welcome. Dan Sang is here. Says, hey, Tom. Hey, Dan. Good to see you. Dave Moore says, love 34th Street. I love it as well. Hey, Miker113 says, thumbs up for your quality content. Thank you so much. Yeah, if you guys are enjoying the live stream tonight on this beautiful Memorial Day, a lot to be thankful for this Memorial Day. You know, if it wasn't for our men and women in the armed forces that, again, have given the ultimate sacrifice, there'd be no stream. There'd be no free market capitalism, right? So we definitely appreciate all of those fallen heroes. And in addition to that, the people who are serving right now. So big thumbs up for that. Mark Saint is here. Says, hey, Tom and friends. Been a minute. Happy Memorial Day. Hey, Mark, happy Memorial Day to you as well. As we are standing on the corner of 34th Street and 6th Avenue, Avenue of the Americas. Eric 20 says, hey, Tom, why are you holding so much cash? Prices have come down. So historically, you are right. I am holding, in my actively managed portfolio, a very large portion of cash. However, that ties in exactly what I was going to talk about now. So it's a good segue. We did actually have a follow-through day in the market last week, but I think this is probably a tradable bear market rally because as we talked about, in addition, in the Behind the Street newsletter, we are about 15% extended below the major stock market moving averages on the NASDAQ, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, and the S&P 500, and those are the 50-day and 200-day moving average. So we could have a material bounce here that is tradable, but I would heed some caution here because volume is very low on these rallies. I think we could have one more leg down in the market, but so my actively managed account right now is right at about 85% cash. It was higher before the follow-through day, but I had to buy a little bit of stock, nothing material. couple points of equity. But in my in my passively managed account, which is my retirement, every second, the second to last Monday of every month, I just have automatic buys into the S&P 500 that I'll never look at until I'm like 80, when I'm ready to retire. I think I'll probably retire at 80, right? I think we could still be live streaming until 80 and selling software until 80. Somebody's saying, do you hold any Bitcoin? Yes, I do. Not any of the other alternative coins. I think they are horrible. NMB045 says the problem we have is that we talk about capitalism and socialism in binary terms. No society is purely one or another. Very well put. Very good. That's a very good comment there, NMB045. That's actually a really great comment, NMB045. You know, and I think that ties right in sort of NMB045, what we were talking about yesterday a little bit. Me and you were going back and forth in terms of the regulatory environment in cryptocurrencies, right? A lot of these stable coins turned out to be Ponzi-like schemes. If you don't have some sort of checks and balances or some sort of regulatory clarity there, you're going to have consumers getting hurt, and that's not what we want. So, you know, I think if you have total laissez-faire, hands off, I don't think that is good. But then on the other hand, if you have sort of draconian policies, that's not good as well. So good point. We got the bikers here tonight. Brad's Bain says, cool, Tom, I'll enjoy your live streams in my hundreds. Hey, as long as I have feet, I'm definitely going to keep walking. So here's another beautiful view of the Empire State Building. Yeah, Faith says, miss you, the Swan, if you're watching. Faith, you got to give me an update. So I think the Swan still watches. I just don't think he comments in the chat. David says, Warren Buffett, never invest in anything you don't understand. I agree. Good words to live by there, my friends. So let's cross 6th Avenue. I actually want to stand directly under the Empire State Building and check it out. I think we're going to have a pretty good view from under there. Mick Gilla says, hey Tom, did you buy an electric board yet? I'm not a big electric board type guy. I just like regular. I don't really like, I just don't like the electric boards for whatever reason. Hey, Dana Thompson says, I watched the C. Vanderbilt story today. Are you going by any of his buildings? You know, actually maybe. We may be doing that tonight. Red Baron is here, says, is anyone an active trader or buy and hold? Active trader in terms of what? Are you talking about day trading? No, I don't do any day trading. I would say the style that I have in my actively managed portfolio is a sort of a style like a Stanley Druckenmiller or a Paul Tudor Jones or a William J. O'Neill, where you use large amounts of size to make big concentrated bets on extremely profitable businesses that are growing their earnings and their sales. They have great return on equity, positive free cash flow, very good and very high pre-tax and after-tax margins. You know, I wrote about the theory of why day trading doesn't work in the Behind the Street newsletter, and I think it's not really worth anybody's time to day trade stocks. And I think it's even more relevant now as we have you know, quantitative trading firms. Because essentially, as you reduce your time frame, or as you lower your time frame, you have to understand the people you're competing with. Okay, So if I'm going to trade on a 5-minute bar or something like that, I'm competing with like a 2 Sigma or a Citadel or a Jump Trading, right? All like quantitative research shops on Wall Street. And I really don't want to compete with that, right? I don't think that's worth your time. And also, ever since really the introduction of algorithmic trading, market making, on Wall Street, intraday volatilities have actually contracted and compressed a great deal. And I think that's actually good over the long run, but for a trader, what do you need? You need volatility, right, to make money. So I think by expanding your time horizons, and if you size into a name or a particular stock that is growing their earnings at a compounded annualized growth rate of at least 25% per annum, growing their revenues at 25% per annum or quarter over quarter, 25% return on equity, great free cash flow generation, good pre-tax and after-tax margins. And if you size into these names and you're willing to sit for 6 earnings reports, because there's data that has come out that have showed the vast majority of the movements in the market actually happen after hours. So if you're not holding these stocks or good quality companies through earnings, you're not going to collect the meat of that move. An additional piece of information that came out, I think this research came out from Eve Bobach and Kathy Donnelly, which are 2 really, really good researchers on Wall Street. They actually have a book that came out called Life Cycle of Trade, or The Life Cycle Trade. Really, really good book. Highly recommend it. And one of the things that they say is if you can find a company that has 6 consecutive beat and raise quarters, that particular stock on average will go up 300%. So what does that mean? But first, this is the view of the Empire State Building directly under the Empire State Building. So essentially what a beat and raise quarter is analysts on Wall Street will make a prediction of a stock around earnings. They'll say, hey, I think this company is going to produce $1 billion in revenue this quarter and generate $2.50 EPS, or earnings per share. If that company then turns around and says, hey everybody, we had a really great quarter, we generated $1.27 billion in revenue, and we produced $5 of EPS. So essentially that means the company beat on both the top and the bottom line. In addition, where the raise comes in, maybe you'll have the chief financial officer of the company come on the earnings call and says, we had such a great quarter and we actually want to increase our forecast for the full fiscal year. That is called raising forward guidance. So if you buy the book, I think it's actually maybe free on like an audiobook on YouTube, but Life Cycle Trade, usually 6 beat and raise quarters, the stock will go up about 300%. And we've seen this with all the big true market leaders throughout history. Alphabet, Facebook, Nvidia, AMD, very, very solid companies that tend to produce a lot of free cash. Hey, DJ Mike, what's up? Says the Subway Series, good to see you. James, welcome. Yeah, I've noticed, guys, we've been having some crazy amount of spam in the chat lately. I'm not sure why, but hey, Brian Forrest is here. Says hello, Tom. Good to see you, Brian. Brad's Brain says, Tom, I know you're Can Slim and you include charts in your newsletter, but how technical are you? Yeah, so I think in terms of a technical analyst, I think charts are very important, but usually what you'll find is the companies that have the best looking charts are the companies with the best earnings, right? Because essentially a stock chart is just showing you investor activity. So when you have a stock chart that is from the left up and to the right, that usually shows extreme institutional accumulation of that specific stock. And if you look at the earnings block, you'll say, oh wow, I know why this stock is going up. It's because it has blowout earnings and they have very predictable earnings. But yeah, I use charts a lot. You know, a good free charting software is tradingview.com. Very good. Hey, Sabrina Ferris here. Guzman says, hey Tom, how was your Monday? My Monday was very good. My Monday was very, very good. Uh, 004. I think you should probably apply to like a 2 Sigma or a Citadel or a Jump Trading. I think they would. I think you would do really well there, and I think you would learn good processes, and I think you'd make a good amount of money. I would definitely recommend that. Hey, Jacob's Zone is here. Says hello, new here, bruh. Good to see you. Thank you for being here. Palmeiras says, Tom, you're a security software man. Russia would love to embarrass you. Thank you. Brent is here. Says, Tom, how did the work dinner go? The work dinner went well. You know, I'm going to be in San Antonio, Texas this week. Just FYI. So we may be a little bit lacking on the streams. But just to quickly recap, everybody, we did just do a market to look ahead stream. So tomorrow is going to be a big earnings day on Wall Street. 2 companies we should look out for, just to let everybody know. Salesforce, ticker symbol CRM. Obviously, the CEO, Mark Benioff, will be reporting earnings tomorrow. And I think the biggest, the biggest thing to look forward to in that earnings report is the performance of Slack. So Slack, ticker symbol WORK, is a company that Salesforce acquired. So a lot of analysts are going to be looking at the performance of Slack, either helping or detracting from Salesforce's earnings. But then, even more importantly than that, we are going to get additional economic data tomorrow from the Conference Board. They are going to release the Consumer Confidence Index for May. Many economists on Wall Street are estimating a 4.7% month-over-month decline to 102. However, retail spending has remained strong even as consumer confidence has declined. So once again, we talked about this at the beginning of the stream. We're seeing a slight divergence here between consumer confidence and retail sales and consumer spending. So consumers are still spending and it is increasing their spending, but if we look at the data, their confidence is going down. But again, I'll reiterate, as we heard from the CEO of Walmart and Target, consumers aren't necessarily spending more and getting more products and services. Sometimes they are forced to spend more because the prices of those products and services are going up. We are also seeing a slight transition from what consumers are actually willing to spend on. So we've been seeing a change and a shift of consumers spending on name brand goods to shifting their focus to more store branded goods and things like that. And we heard from the CEO of Walmart on that. Hey, JL is here. Good to see you, JL. Happy Memorial Day to you, my friend. Hopefully you're well. Kumar is here, says, hey buddy, how are you? I'm doing very good, Kumar. Thank you for joining. Chemo is here. Nathaniel says hello. Good to see you. Jones says hello. Welcome everybody. JL says, good evening, Tom. I hope you are enjoying this holiday weekend. By the way, I posted a screenshot of the Empire State Building just now on IG. Thank you, just checking in. Hey, thank you, JL. Millie says, with the bear market, is now a good time to play it safe and move over to municipal bonds? Or is it best to stick it out and wait for the market to recover? I think it's best to stick it out. Daniel G is here. Good to see you. Says happy Tuesday. You know, I don't know if you're just joining, but we did briefly go over this. So what's going on in the markets right now is actually rather normal. It's actually rather normal. And I know if we turn on CNBC, if we turn on Bloomberg, a lot of the times, obviously in times of market volatility, their job is to drive ratings. And I understand that, but if we actually look back in the past to other market circumstances that are similar to this, i.e., a presidential midterm election year, this stock market performance is actually not out of character. It's actually not a statistical anomaly. It's actually in line with the data. So I'll give you a quick data point here. So under President Trump, the stock market soared early, but in 2018, which just so happened to be his midterm election cycle, so the second year, the stock market declined about 18.8%. Now, if you remember correctly, I remember this extremely vividly because the market put in a bottom on Christmas Eve. I remember, like, I was on the Long Island Railroad and I was looking at the market on my phone. I was like, wow, things are getting absolutely killed. Lo and behold, 2018 Christmas Eve, the market put in a bottom. So usually the stock market performs the worst in years where we have a midterm election. Wow, check this out, everybody. Hey, Daniel G says, hey Tom, I've been here since the beginning of the stream. Very cool. Thank you, Daniel G. Hopefully everything is going well in Argentina. It's a beautiful night out here in New York City. So in terms of Joe Biden's presidential year, we've had similar stock market action. You know, once Biden was elected, the stock markets took off, but then during the midterm year, which is this year, stock markets have declined. And if we look back, even I think going back to 1910, the worst years of performance is in midterm election years. But the good news is that once November passes through and midterms are in and locked and done, usually the market tends to recover because now the market has more clarity. So it's very, very possible that we could have a tail end rally into the end of the year. Obviously, nothing is guaranteed. These are just some of the data points. But man, is the Empire State Building looking beautiful tonight. If you guys are enjoying the stream, feel free to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel for more live streams around New York City. We'd love to have you here. But I'll give you guys another interesting data point. So the median returns from 1900 to 2021 for different years in a president's term is this. So in year one of a president's term, the market tends to go up 12.7%. That's for year one. In year two, which happens to be the midterm year, markets go up only 3.1%. In year three, which is the pre-election year, markets rip and go up 14.8%. And in the fourth year, which is the final election year for president, markets go up 7.4%. So, even though there's a lot of volatility, even though there's a lot of pain, even though the Federal Reserve is raising interest rates and stocks are getting clocked, if we look at the data and if we put our emotions aside, we can conclusively say that this is actually pretty normal. If this wasn't happening, we could potentially be saying, this is an anomaly here, but this is actually not. So in a midterm year, the stock market only tends to perform about 3.1%. But here's what we potentially have to look forward to, everybody. In year three, which is going to be next year, and again, this isn't a guarantee, this is just if we look back throughout history, the market tends to put on about a 14.8% gain. Usually tends to put on about a 14.8% gain. So what does that mean? If the market overall gains 14.8%, well, individual stocks are probably going to go up, you know, in some cases 50 to 100%, or sometimes maybe even more. So I think we have a lot to look forward to. Yeah, 3T3 says, hey Tom, I'm just here for the long term, 10, 20 years. I agree, love that. Good to see you. Hey, Dog Pound 1, welcome my friend. I like the sound of that. Good to see you, Dog Pound 1. Wendy England says, as long as they get inflation under control, Tom. Yeah, so Wendy, I think that's a good point. So speaking about that, President Biden is going to meet with Fed Chair Jerome Powell this week. Obviously, well, actually, I don't really know what they're going to talk about. Nobody knows, but probably going to talk about inflation. probably going to talk about inflation. But I think this is probably the best time for the Federal Reserve to be raising interest rates, is right now. Because if they wanted to continue quantitative tightening when Joe Biden is up for re-election, that's probably not the best time to do it, right? If anything, if the Fed can hike rates and really, really throw us under the bus in QT, we may have to go through some short-term pain. But look, any politician, they want to get re-elected, right? And Joe Biden wants to get re-elected. So the plan here could potentially be, let's raise interest rates, let's cool the economy, and then in year 3, year 4, maybe we could actually be looking at some rate hikes. Rate cuts. So you never know. But right here, everybody, is the very top of the One Vanderbilt building. Terry Candidates is Biden's second term. Yeah, so I'm not giving an opinion on whether I think Biden should get elected for a second term or not. All I'm saying is, as Biden goes up for that re-election, he has a political mind. Politicians want to stay in power. So he's probably going to nudge the Federal Reserve to say, hey, take your foot off the gas here and, stop raising rates and stop ceasing to buy mortgage-backed securities in U.S. Treasuries. We'll actually probably see maybe a little bit of quantitative easing in year 4. You never know, but we'll see. But let's take a quick lap through Koreatown. It's one of my favorite places in the city. Hopefully we don't see any rats. Usually in this location, there tends to be a lot of rats. Oh, there's one, there's two. Yeah, Red Baron says it seems like when the Fed raises interest rates, the market goes down. That is exactly right. That is exactly right. Especially with tech stocks, especially with tech stocks. And the reason why that is because for the most part, it's not an absolute, but a lot of the times, tech stocks or tech companies will have earnings that are predicated in the future. And as interest rates go up, those future earnings become less valuable in today's dollars, right? But as interest rates are near zero, investors are willing to pay more for earnings that are forecasted in the future, right? It's sort of just like valuating cash flows. And that's why a lot of financial analysts on Wall Street will build what's called a discounted cash flow model, because finance is really about discounting cash flows into the future, right? And interest rates have a really, really big, play a really, really big part in valuation. So as interest rates have been going up, and the Federal Reserve has been raising interest rates in 50 basis point increments, the market has to reevaluate these companies. Yeah, Western Mass Dave is like, yeah, that didn't take long to see some rats, I know. Hey, Timothy is here, says hi. Good to see you, Timothy. Thank you for being here. British Gray, thank you for being here as well. This is Tom, President of the United States and Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell is going to be discussing gas and food prices, plus another stimulus check for the families. Oh my God, that's going to drive inflation to the moon if that happens. James's tech stocks borrow more money. Their costs go up with higher rates. That is true. And pretty much all Russell 2000 companies as well. So a lot of stocks within the Russell 2000 are referred to as zombie companies. And the only way they are essentially able to stay afloat is because they're able to service the interest on their debt because interest rates are so low. But as interest rates go up, it's going to be harder and harder for those zombie companies to service their debt obligations. So that's another really good point too. That's a really good point. Mobility Mark, good to see you. Mobility Mark says, middle class and functioning economy be damned. Money printer go burr forever. This is the sound of monetary policy of the future. Long live Kathy Wood. Yeah, so maybe we have some sort of like a modern monetary theory going on here. Maybe. Good to see you. But everybody, the only thing that's more important than the stock market is H Mart. This is my favorite grocery store. The first time I went in here to H Mart was about 2 years ago. I was absolutely blown away. Very, very highly recommended. Hopefully they actually build an H Mart out on Long Island. That would be fantastic. But this is one of my favorite grocery stores of all time. NMB 045 says, Tom, the Quebec government gave all of us a $500 check recently to offset the cost of inflation. Guess what that means for inflation? Yeah, I know. A little bit ironic, right? The irony of that is kind of funny. But NMB 045, whoa. So a rat literally just ran up this thing. I didn't know these things were hollow. But, oh, there he is. My God. Wow, I didn't know these things are hollow, so rats can actually go up them. Man. Let's see if he comes out. Gregory's like big guy. I know, Greg, that thing was crazy big, man. Jeez, I didn't know those things were hollow. Hey, Rock is here. This is Tom. Biden policy upward price pressure on supply side and increased demand side. This is Rock. Good to see you, Rock. Hopefully you're having a good Memorial Day. Yeah, somebody says, what is this, the Middle Ages? Jeez. Hey, Iris Lou says, hey everybody, and good evening, Tom. Good evening. I believe you were, I forget where you're joining us from again, but good to see you as always. Yeah, Sally says you saw it, Tom, I know. So everybody, we are gonna head back uptown, because I'm actually staying in the city. Western Mass Dave says, hey mice, get into your home to the basement. That is true. Ritz Won the Great says H Mart is in Hicksville, Long Island. Are you serious? No way. I never knew that, man. I never knew that. Hey, the Austin Tennis is here. Former investment banker turned software salesman. Good to see you, my friend. Always a pleasure. Samia says, what time do you go to bed? I'll probably go to bed early tonight. Photos around New York says H Mart is in Jericho too. Wow, I never knew that. We're gonna have to make a pit stop the next time I'm out on Long Island. I guess I could rephrase that and say I hope H Mart comes to South Shore, Long Island. Hey, Michael Cooper says, good evening from Corpus Christi, Texas. Good to see you, my friend. So speaking of Texas, I'm gonna be in San Antonio, Texas very, very soon. I'm going to be in San Antonio, Texas this week on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and Sunday. So there will be no live stream Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. So we are going to have a long hiatus here on the stream. But the good news is I did upload some pre-recorded videos to sort of hold us over. So I will be in the chat as we upload those pre-recorded videos. Austin Tennis says, hey Tom, any interest in doing streams in Moynihan Train Hall? Tons of interest in that, but for some reason, every time we try, the internet is horrible. And you would think the internet would be really good because it's a brand new train hall, but it is not. It is not good at all. Two Explorers Videos is here. Good to see you, my friend. We were talking about, markets to look ahead. We're going to have the IMS manufacturing numbers, the PMI numbers coming out. We're going to be doing that, but I think the main topic of the stream, in addition to the markets to look ahead, is market performance during midterm election cycles. And that how this market volatility is actually more normal than not. And how the market does not like uncertainty. And as we inch closer to midterms, we don't know who's going to get elected. Are the Democrats going to take control? Are the Republicans going to take control? But we are setting ourselves up for the potentially the best political alignment for the stock market, and that could happen in November. So since 1901, historically the stock market wants to see a Democrat president, which we have, Joe Biden, but they also want to see a Republican control both houses of Congress. And I think we may have that because I think Americans are fed up with inflation. So I think it's very possible I think it's very possible for Republicans to take control of both houses of Congress. And it doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat. What we were trying to do is set our political biases aside and just look at the hard data. But dating back to 1901, if we have a Democrat as a president, and if we have Republican control both houses of Congress, the stock market tends to return 8%. And this is very possible. So if this happens in November, that could be a signal to go long hard the market. Sabrina Ferris here says, yep, good to see you. Car Tire says, there is nothing America can't achieve under Biden, sky's the limit. Faith says, what did Faith say? Triple G says, Tom, do you think Google's stock split will bring any upside? So I don't really, so here's another thing. So in terms of stock splits, there are some people that say, a stock split is a positive catalyst for a stock or a company. I don't think that way, because a stock split does nothing material to improve the fundamentals of the business. Some people that are newbies, they think that a stock split will actually change the market capitalization of the company, but it's not. It doesn't really do anything. I think Google's doing the stock split so they are eligible to be in the Dow Jones Industrial Average. I think that's probably it. But any sort of material move to the upside based upon a stock split alone is, in my opinion, not an actionable idea. So when you're trying to structure an investment thesis, me personally, I do not think that it is wise to build an investment thesis upon a stock split. Reason being is because if we look back throughout history, stock prices tend to follow the overall trajectory of the earnings of the company, and a stock split will do nothing material to increase the quality of the underlying business. So therefore, I usually don't pay much attention to the stock split. I know some traders and people trade off of it, but over the long term, it's really immaterial. Jerry says, Tom, stock splits mean nothing except for the newbie. I agree with that. Hey, Techno Pink, what's up? Techno Pink is our pal from the Dominican Republic. Good to see you, Techno Pink, as always. Hopefully you had a great weekend. Techno Pink is also our consultant, managing consultant at EY. Tortellini says, I like Biden, he is old with wisdom. T. Campbell says, China is said to be loosening their COVID policy and giving out stimulus checks and lowering some taxes to recover. How do you think this will affect stocks? Well, T. Campbell, I don't have any equity exposure to China anymore. I think the geopolitical risk is too crazy there. Now, I did get some backlash in my email box yesterday about my stance on China. And I think the people who are criticizing me on that stance may be new to the stream, so that is actually okay. It is warranted criticism, but as you guys know, the people who have been watching the stream for about a year now, I was actually a raging China bull. And I've established this thesis right around 2017, 2018, going into 2019. Because I was studying China, hold on, we'll wait till these guys pass. I was studying China quite a bit from an investing standpoint. And I would really encourage everybody, let's see what we got going on. I would really encourage everybody to read the book AI Superpowers by Dr. Kai-Fu Lee. Now, Dr. Kai-Fu Lee is an extremely brilliant guy who I respect a lot, and he is the former president of Google China during the tech and telecom boom. And he outlines very clearly that back in the day, a lot of Americans and Europeans and American companies more specifically would look to Chinese companies as knockoffs of American software and sort of like a second or third tier in the software space or the tech space in general. That's actually completely changed as of late, and there's actually extremely good tech companies emerging out of China. Extremely good. Well, I feel like all of these guys here on those little rickshaws, I don't know why, but they hammer the music. I mean, for me, if I was going to get a ride on a rickshaw, I would be more attracted to that guy if he turned down the music or didn't have any music. But essentially, that's why I had a big bull thesis on China. But unfortunately, it doesn't matter how many fantastic entrepreneurs you could have in your country. If you have a system that hinders innovation, which I believe that China does with the CCP, you're not going to have capital allocation to the country. Capital will always flow to the path of least resistance. And if you make it very hard for people to innovate, it definitely shows up in the stock prices. Just look what they did to Alibaba, Pinduoduo. So check that out, Dr. Kai-Fu Lee. He explains it in detail. We've done many streams on it, but I got a lot of emails saying that, hey, Tom, you should do some research on China. I think you're a little bit misguided. Some people are even calling me racist in my email box, which is ridiculous. But they don't know I've had hundreds of thousands of dollars invested into China and actually wrote multiple bull theses on Chinese equities. But I've since liquidated those positions. And I'm all out of them. So I'm actually a huge bull, China bull. And if you want to learn a little bit more, check out the venture capital firm Sinovation Ventures. So Sinovation Ventures is now the sole venture capital firm that is dedicated solely to investing into Chinese-only startups in machine learning and artificial intelligence. And it is all run by Dr. Kai-Fu Lee, who is a brilliant technologist of our time. I would definitely recommend those books, AI Superpowers and also AI 2041. Fantastic books. So I think the innovation is there. I really think the innovation is there for China, but it's just the political infrastructure that they have is causing a lot of capital to flee the country, unfortunately. So. Hey, G Sheps, just check out Cypress, Jansen, and Martin. I will, definitely I will. Captain Supers is younger, Chinese are wary, and more than a little turned off at the direction Chairman Xi is taking. I agree. Hold on, I have to take on my contact lens. Very humid here. Hey, Nicole is here. Good to see you. This looks like it was a beautiful day today in New York. It was. Fantastic day today in New York. Hopefully you had a good Memorial Day weekend, Nicole, as we are passing the One Vanderbilt building near Bryant Park. Hey, Estelle is here from Australia. Says, hey Tom, how's New York tonight? New York is fantastic tonight. Thank you for asking. How is Australia? Samson says, I'd invest all American because the sanctions on China are coming. Ukraine has lost and we are gearing up to fight China. Yes, Samson, so the reason why I sold all of my Chinese equities last year, well, 2020 and in 2021, excuse me, is because these businesses are fantastic. You know, Alibaba, Pinduoduo, they're fantastic businesses, but it's just too much regulatory risk to invest money there. You know, you never know what the new policy is going to be for the zero COVID policy. It doesn't matter if you agree with that or not. From an investment standpoint, it's too unpredictable. And I think, you know, we just got done talking about how markets don't like uncertainty. And I think the CCP is very uncertain about the way that they want to, you know, run the economy. G. Shep says, when I lived in China, I felt poor. It seems like they are all doing very well and have more opportunities than we do, says G. Shep. Which part of China did you live? Yeah, and again, I'm not saying that China is a bad place, right? What I'm saying is it's hard to invest there with all the uncertainties. I'm not saying it's a bad place. I'm not saying it's a third world country. I'm just saying it's hard. It's hard as a portfolio manager to invest in a country where there's so much political uncertainty, geopolitical risk. But I will check that out. Let me screenshot the author you recommended, because I am intrigued by that actually. But originally what got me very bullish on China was reading a lot of the work of Dr. Kai-Fu Lee. Brilliant, brilliant innovator. Mobility Mark. So everybody, here's probably my top 3 view of the Empire State Building. Fantastic view tonight for Memorial Day. Brandy says, speaking of risk, Tom, have you heard of pig butchering? Too many people are falling for this romance crypto scam. I just warned a neighbor about it. I have not. I probably shouldn't be laughing, but I have not heard of it, no. Yeah, I mean, I think I've made my stance pretty clear on the cryptocurrency environment. I think that the biggest risk is that a lot of these altcoins, as they like to call them, if you have any sort of background in securities law, by definition, these are technically securities. So that could be a huge risk if the SEC just turns around one day and says, hey, all of these altcoins are securities. That's going to be a big problem for people who have owned them and solicited these unlicensed securities. Now, I get the fact that, look, if the SEC wants to classify these altcoins as securities, that a lot of the innovation may go overseas. I get that. But there does need to be some regulatory clarity around cryptocurrencies, or you will continuously have these perpetual Ponzi schemes that people unfortunately fall victim to. Most recently being the Terra Luna stablecoin fallout, which I believe was in excess of $40 billion. So I think there just needs to be regulatory framework. And look, we've talked about this a lot on the stream. If you want real institutional investment, I'm not talking about the hedge funds, right? Because they're already trading this stuff. But if you're talking about like sovereign wealth, who run trillions of dollars, unless you have true regulatory clarity and that they know that this stuff is safe, there's not going to be capital flows to the space on an institutional or sovereign wealth level, in my view. So that's why I'm in favor for at least Gary Gensler or somebody at the SEC to sit down and hammer out a regulatory framework in and around the cryptocurrency environment. Just something. Because, you know, if this stuff keeps happening, The Ponzi schemes and the scams. The average guy and girl investor are going to be turned off, and it's going to give the space a very bad name, which I happen to be extremely bullish on Bitcoin. Brandy says basically scammers are texting people under the assumption of a wrong number, leading them to. Yeah, I would never. I mean, that's kind of obvious. If you get a text message from anybody soliciting money, I mean, definitely don't give them any money. Hey, Melee is here. Says good evening from Scranton, Pennsylvania. Good to see you. Good to see you. Hope you're well. We're going to be walking back to Central Park South. Hold on, let's see. Bob says, Tom, I had a friend whose husband was in charge of a Ford plant expansion in China and hated every minute of it. Felt she was being surveilled all the time. Interesting. Joan is here. Welcome. Jessica Santiago, good to see you. Jimmy says, what's people's thoughts on subway pigeons? Well, I think I actually walked past a protest, a birds are not real protest before, but I think after doing some additional research into the birds aren't real thing, I think it's a parody, but it's a very, very funny parody, if not anything, but that's sort of how I feel about it. David says, anything that is traded that is not money is either an investment or security by definition. Yeah, I think you're right. And I think the reason why I think that they're securities by definition is because people are soliciting these unlicensed, right? Like you have the founders, you have the co-founders. You don't know exactly how many shares or whatever you want to call them, coins, digital coins that they have. So it can get a little bit long in the tooth, if you know what I mean. Yeah, Ed's like, wake up sheeple, birds aren't real. Hilarious. So here we are passing the News Corporation, everybody. So you can think about the Wall Street Journal, Investors Business Daily. And we're actually about to pass Radio City Music Hall, which is one of my favorite places in the city. Ed says, hey Tom, is Tesla going to stock split? You know, we were just talking about Google going to be doing their stock split, and I think that they're doing it mainly to get a bid into the Dow Jones Industrial Average. But really, I really don't trade or formulate any investing thesis based upon a stock split, because it's sort of immaterial in its nature, I think. You know, it doesn't have anything to affect the fundamentals. And really the only thing that drives stock prices over the long term are fundamental changes, either good or bad, for the business. Yeah, Mobility Mark says, hey Tom, Tether's going to blow up at some point too. Like Terra Luna, it's going to be a disaster. Yeah, most crypto exchanges use Tether as collateral, yep. I think you're right. So there's another reason why I think regulation would be good. Because if you had a stable coin that is held to account, where they have to publish their holdings, or they have to prove that is actually backed by something, just sort of like how, you know, you have to have disclosures if you're running an ETF. You know, investors could actually see what that particular exchange traded fund is invested in. if you can have the same thing with this sort of stable coin, I think that's going to attract institutions to adopt and use it to make it easier to trade other crypto assets, whether it be Bitcoin or Ethereum or something like that. But if everybody is on the rails and they don't trust these stable coins, well, then it's going to be pretty hard to have institutional broad-based adoption. It's going to be hard to, invest, a teacher's pension fund, get them exposure to it, things like that. So I know a lot of the crypto guys and girls say we don't want any government, we want hands off, and I get that. But you need something. You need some regulation around these products, tokens, whatever you want to call them. You need it. These American flags look fantastic tonight. All right, so now we are passing the UBS building. So Marcelo, if you're in the chat, I remembered now. Marcelo's daughter actually works in this building, UBS. Hey, Ed says, Tom, when will you be back in Miami? It's probably going to be about a week and a half because I have to go to San Antonio, Texas. So after that, I'll be back. But then I got to come right back to New York. So I'll probably be in Miami for about 2 weeks. Come back. I have to show you guys, I forgot. Maybe I'll do a quick stream when I get back to the house. So I planted about, I think it's like 40 Clusia bushes around the entire perimeter of the house. And these things are supposed to grow to 20 feet tall. So if you've ever been to the Hamptons, like those Hampton hedges, you can't even see the house from the street. That's sort of like how my house is going to be. It's going to take a couple of years for them to grow that tall. But I just finished putting them all in. It's going to look crazy. So you won't be able to see the house from the street at all. It'll just be 20 feet tall Clusia, because originally I was going to repair the fence. So there's no fence in the front yard. There was a fence in the backyard, but it was really old and like the wood was rotted. So I was like, instead of buying a new fence and installing it, why don't I go with a natural fence, right? And I think that's going to make the air quality around my house a lot better. So I think it's going to look cool. I'll do a quick live stream and show you guys. Nicole B. Winning says you planted by yourself. I had a little bit of help from my neighbor, but then again, my neighbor is, what's it called? My neighbor is a landscaper. I had a little bit of help. Wendy says 2 years. Yeah, I think it takes about 2 years for them to be fully grown, does it? NMB045 says, I think regulators do not want to regulate crypto because they are afraid of Bitcoin replacing the dollar. Yeah, I mean, the way I think about Bitcoin, I don't really think of it as a currency. I'm sort of in the digital gold narrative. And now I could be wrong, but if you look at the transaction volumes, and maybe you could argue, yeah, with the Lightning network now that runs parallel to Bitcoin, it could be used as a transactional currency. Yeah, I mean, I'm still in the camp that it's more of like a digital store of value or a digital gold. At least that's how I keep my allocation. I just keep it in a cold storage off the exchanges. Never look at it, sort of like what you would do with gold, right? Jack Tripper says, how did Bitcoin get valuable anyway? I think through the network of miners, right? I think proof of work in and of itself. I'm not going to go into the whole thing tonight because we have been streaming for about 2 hours. But if you want to read an entire thesis, essentially, about that in some ways where Bitcoin has value in terms of also solving the energy crisis here in America and around the world, if you type !news, NEWS, in the chat, I actually wrote a detailed piece about Bitcoin. But I would also recommend a book. Now, I'm not recommending you buy Bitcoin. If you don't understand Bitcoin, I wouldn't touch it. There's no reason to. If you understand an investment, then yeah, you should make an investment. But if you don't understand it, you shouldn't buy it. But the Bitcoin Standard is a very, very good book. And the reason it's a good book is not because it talks about and explains Bitcoin. It gives a detailed history of fiat currencies themselves. So I think I like the book for that aspect, in addition to the education you get on Bitcoin. But I think the history lesson of fiat currencies is actually probably what makes the book good. Texman81 says Bitcoin's value is what someone else is willing to pay for it. Potentially, that is definitely a big argument there. I guess what you're referring to, 81, is the greater fool theory, perhaps. Rox says, are you trying to establish residency in free country of Florida? Yeah, so I actually missed that by about a couple months. So my primary residence now is in Florida. But over the next coming years, depending on the housing market, I want to acquire a property maybe in Denver, Colorado. And hopefully, as the years go on and I start to make more money and acquire other properties, I want to buy a place here in the city, in New York City. But yes, I will be filing for the homestead exemption this year, so for 2022. So I had to pay the full property tax, the full flat rate this year. But next year I should be getting a 50% discount off of the appraisal value of the home. So yes, I will be establishing residency down there. Lay says, can you please repeat the name of the book? So the name is The Bitcoin Standard. And if you don't want to buy it, I think there's actually a free audio version online, The Bitcoin Standard. Or also if you type !news, NEWS, in the chat, I believe I mentioned that particular book in some of the newsletters if you want to read them. So check out this view of 432 Park Avenue here. Beautiful view. Yeah, Arnold, I agree, absolute legend. Hey, Rocks is nice. I'm near Sarasota, not full-time yet. Oh, very nice. Sarasota, Florida is where the IMG Academy is. So I am in Miami, Florida. But Sarasota is really nice too. So I was looking at Tampa, Florida for a little bit. But one of the reasons why I chose Miami, Florida is because Miami is sort of like New York in a way. I mean, at least there's a lot of New Yorkers there, right? So very close to Palm Beach. Fort Lauderdale also has a lot of New Yorkers, a lot of Long Islanders. So I sort of felt like I fit in. And it's also very easy to get back to New York City. You know, the flight is only 2.5 hours, and sometimes it can feel even shorter than that. But it's extremely easy, and the flights are extremely cheap too. You know, I used to get flights for like $50. You know, one way, $50 from Miami International to JFK. Yeah, Jason Gates says, Tom, did you know there's a Miami, Ohio? I did know that. There is a Miami, Ohio. So I think there's a Miami University in Ohio. Hey, Ed says, Tom, I moved out of Denver a few years back because of the wacky politics, but otherwise it's pretty nice. Yeah, I mean, the reason why I'm targeting Denver is because there's a lot of tech startups that are moving there. And I also want to have diversity where I buy my property too. So I don't want to load up on Florida. I want to diversify myself. I want to own property in Florida, New York, Colorado. I want to have 3 specific headquarters, I think. I think obviously number 1, New York, but I don't think, at least right now, I don't think I could afford to buy here. So I think in 20 years, the goal is to have 3 distinct quote-unquote headquarters for diversification real estate assets. And I think Miami, Florida, Denver, Colorado, I think is a good spot. And maybe New York, maybe upstate New York on the Hudson River. And then as I get older, maybe acquire an apartment here in the city. I just want to keep the tax burden, the property tax burden, rather low. But look, if the deal works, if the property cash flows, I'll buy it. But I just think right now, as interest rates are going up, hopefully the values of homes will decline. But we'll see. All right, so everybody, this is 58th Street here. So this is actually my old building, right here. Texman 81 is not Dallas area in Texas. So no Texas for me, no Texas for me. Not saying Texas is a bad place. Texas is a beautiful place. But I think for me personally, I just don't think it's for me for a place to live personally. I want to sort of establish a very convenient triangle, so I can pretty much get anywhere in the 3 locations: Miami, New York, very easy, and then one place. Maybe I think Denver's pretty high in the running. Denver, Colorado. You know, I was pretty intrigued about buying land in Wyoming. So that is probably in the running, but that'll probably be if I just want to acquire land, potentially. You know, Bill Gates has been, and some other ultra wealthy people have been acquiring significant amounts of farmland. So I think maybe I'd want to own a couple acres of super hardcore American homeland, right? I mean, you can't make any more of that stuff. So we'll see. I'll definitely keep you guys updated. Jason Gates is no relation to me, Bill Gates. Or maybe you are Bill Gates, who knows? Perry says, do you see these residences as investments? Yeah, I think, so my place is technically now a legal 2-family. But yes, I always evaluate the properties that I buy based on, will the properties cash flow from the tenants I'll have moving in? Because I figure if I do that while I'm still in my 20s, you know, maybe I'll have the thing paid off by the time I'm 50 or something. And then it's sort of like the tenants paid off your house for you. So we'll see. But I am intrigued by Wyoming a lot. Sabrina Fair, time check. That would be a great idea. It would be a very good idea. So everybody, this is the J.W. Marriott Essex House. Very famous building here. Gregory says, Tom, how do you find tenants? Just curious. Well, I think there's 2 ways. Number 1, which is I think a little bit more creative way, depending on where your property is located relative to a university or a medical school or something like that. You can post flyers in and around that particular medical school or university, because renting to undergraduate college students may be a little bit risky. But I think at the graduate level, and especially if somebody is in medical school, they tend to be a little bit more mature. and so busy, right, that they don't have time to party and destroy your house. So these people tend to be extremely studious and dedicated to their studies. So if you can find a local medical school or a local graduate school or somebody that is doing a graduate program, I think those are pretty good fits for tenants, because the entire time they're probably going to be locked away in the room studying. If you really, really want to try to go out on a limb, you could rent to undergrads, but just know that you may have some wild parties at your house. But that's sort of the approach I've taken so far. I'm also going to experiment with Airbnb for sure. Western Mass Dave says, Tom, you have a good plan for the future. Didn't work out for me, but I'm still happy, I guess. There's always time, Western Mass Dave, dude. Ed Dunkel says, avoid art majors. Dan Smith says, I want beachfront in Nevada. My God, don't we all? Car Tires is property management agency or realtors. Yeah, that's another good plan for sure. Hey, Christina. No, I did not get a chance to go out to Long Island for Memorial Day weekend, but I will be on Long Island this week. Maybe we'll do an impromptu stream from Jones Beach. Maybe I think I'm going to take a day to rest, maybe on Wednesday before I travel. Obviously, as I've said, I'm going to San Antonio. Hey, Liam is here to say good to see you, Liam. Ruby says, whoa, the mic just got super clear. Yeah, so I had the mic clipped to my backpack, so hopefully the mic wasn't too bad all along on the stream. I apologize if it was, but everybody, we will be ending it right here because my phone is about to die. We are on about 10% battery. But I think we had a good conversation tonight. So for the first hour and a half of the stream, we did a markets a look ahead, and then we did a deep dive into election cycles, midterm election cycles, and the performance of the stock market. I will be including that data in the Behind the Street newsletter that will come out tomorrow after the market closes. So if you want to stay in contact with all of us on the stream, if you type !news and EWS in the chat, the Nightbot will drop the link to the Behind the Street newsletter, and we will be back to our regular scheduled programming, which will be tomorrow after the market closes. We will be including all of the data that we talked about tonight on the stream going back to 1910, tracking the stock market performance during midterm election cycles. So super excited about that. So everybody, take it easy. Hopefully you had a great Memorial Day weekend. NMB 045, enjoy your time in New York City. If I don't see you, I hope you have a fantastic time. Always a pleasure when we have our Canadian friends visiting New York. So Captain Super, thank you so much. Sunshine After Rain, you are way too kind. Captain Super, Samantha R, Fred X, Faith, thank you. Brandy, Roy S, Triple G, Cosmo Scary, Gregory, Michael, Jason Gates, and to the Mighty Bull, have a good night wherever you are, because there is always a bull market somewhere. You just need to know where to look, and I hope everybody has a fantastic week ahead, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time.